so today I am here with Michael Shermer, and we've actually met before. I was at your talk with Richard Dawkins at Caltech.
Right.
And then you had a fundraiser afterwards, and I was there with Dawkins, and Bill Nye showed up.
Right.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
So if people who are watching are not aware of who Michael Shermer is, I'm going to brag about you a little bit.
Okay. I will properly blush in humility.
New York Times bestseller. You have been on, 4 different TED Talks? Is that a record?
Yeah. No, I don't think it's a record. I think Dan Dennett's done more than me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's all right.
4 TED Talks is pretty impressive, though. You're doing better than me. I haven't done any TED Talks. He's been on Oprah, Larry King Live, recently on the Colbert Report. So, and my channel, which is definitely the coolest of all of these things.
So I've now hit the big time media here.
Exactly.
The new media. I'm telling you, I swear you guys are going to oust the old media.
Internet.
I mean, millions of followers. I mean, when people watch Anderson Cooper on CNN, they think, well, you must have 10, 20 million. No. That's like less than 1 million people watching at any given time.
Wow.
So you're bigger than AC 360.
Working on it. I don't think I'm quite there yet, but...
Yeah. But, it's also a good media because, we can just talk rather than, yes. Okay, you got 3 minutes here before we go to the commercial break. Say what you need to say.
Yeah, it's personal.
So, of course, the point of doing media is not to just do it, is to reach people. And, we want to change the world and make it a better place and so forth. And in our business, it's ideas. We think ideas are what count more than anything. So really just talking to people and communicating what it is we do. Our niche here, we're sitting in the headquarters, the nerve center of this Skeptic magazine. Skeptic site. Our thing is promoting science and critical thinking. So we've kind of carved out a little bit of a niche for the media and the public for how do you explain that particular thing there. Creationism, Holocaust denial, climate denial, and a vaccination or whatever. And the average scientist doesn't really know how to respond. They know they're wrong, but they don't really know the arguments. And even knowing the science is not enough because the people on the other side are not really doing science. They're not making scientific arguments. They're making rhetorical points to try to win over people to their side, which is not science. So one of the things we discovered early on is that like having a biologist debate a creationist, even a biologist who does evolutionary biology, is not really equipped to debate a creationist because he doesn't know what their arguments are going to be, which has nothing to do with evolutionary biology. So that's kind of what we do. It's sort of a little specialty niche that's been getting bigger because, particularly recently with the advent of false alternative facts and fake news and all that stuff.
Alternative facts. I like that.
Well, that was Kellyanne Conway's, explanation for the size of the crowd of the inauguration. Well, our facts are alternative facts to your facts. Well, wait. So really, that's kind of in our wheelhouse. This is what we do. It's like, well, how do you know anything's true? And that gets down to what science does best.
I've noticed that a lot of times it's hard for people to understand. Like you said, even though you have science on your side, it doesn't matter. If you have people like Ray Comfort or Ken Ham on the other end of that, they know how to word things. They know how to articulate certain points of view to get people almost manipulated into, being like, well, that does sound pretty good. And then even if you do have all the facts and all the science on your side, it doesn't matter. And people don't know how to get around that. So that's kind of why I like posting videos on the internet. And
right. Just, just people hearing a particular point. Think, oh, I see. So for example, if you're dealing with like a climate denier, and so if you come at them with facts like the parts per million of CO2 gases into the atmosphere over the last 2 centuries, whatever, that's not really what it's about. What it's really about is your ideology. So it's mostly people on the right in this particular debate, so-called debate. And their worry is that, okay, if climate change is real, then those liberals in government are going to pass massive regulation that controls the economy and interferes with free markets and free trade and capitalism, and that's what I believe in. So those guys have to be wrong because I don't want to give up my, cherished ideology. Right. So really you got to know, okay, that's where this person's coming from. It has nothing to do with, the ice core data, the tree ring data, the whatever data you're going to throw at them. So it's called a backfire effect. That the more facts you give them, not only do they not change their mind, they double down on their belief. So that it kind of backfires. So, so as a useful little thing, it's always good when you're talking to somebody who, whatever you're on, so-called water cooler discussion or YouTube
Yeah.
debate or whatever. Where is this person coming from? What are they really about?
Mm-hmm.
You know, is it really about this one little factoid here, or is it something? It's almost always something else.
Right. You talked in one of your TED Talks. You mentioned debunking, and that there's a lot of bunk out there.
Yes.
So we are, I guess, professional debunkers.
That's right. Yeah. We're the MythBusters, as it were, of bad ideas mostly.
I like that.
So I mean, same thing with, when we first started here, we started the magazine in '92. The Holocaust deniers were kind of gaining a toehold in the media, and so it's like, okay, what are these guys about? What is this really about?
Mm-hmm.
And so they were located right down in Costa Mesa. So I thought, well, I'll just go down there and meet these
Mm-hmm.
guys and find out what it's all about. And that's really how you get to know somebody, when you just. So
Right.
we would go out for beer and pizza, and they would open up. The Jews are doing this, and the
Mm-hmm.
Jews are doing that. I'm like, oh
God.
big surprise. That's what's behind it. But in any case, so then it's like, okay, well, what are your arguments? And then you can kind of deconstruct it that way. But in that case, again, when I would go to, so we published an issue of Skeptic on Holocaust deniers, and I wrote a book about it. And so when I went to Holocaust scholars, they often didn't know the answer to that particular claim that they were making. Like, the door on the gas chamber at Mauthausen in Austria doesn't lock. I'm like, what? Who cares? What does that got to do with it? Well, because if you're gassing people in there and you close the door, you put the gas in there, and the door doesn't lock, they're just going to push it open. So clearly that they weren't gassing people there. If they weren't gassing people at Mauthausen, they weren't gassing people anywhere, so there was no Holocaust. And that's sort of their chain of reasoning.
Right.
Now, at some point, you got to figure out the answer to that particular thing if you want to fully debunk them, but really, it has nothing to do with that.
They just lock down on that one thing because they know
just
that
one little, right.
they know you're not going to automatically know what they're talking about right away. So they're like, see, therefore, checkmate.
This is the thing Dawkins makes the point, like, if you biologists can't explain the left elbow of the frog and how that evolved, therefore evolution didn't happen. So this is what's called the argument from ignorance. That
Right.
is, if I can't explain it, therefore my theory is correct. If you can't, or I think it's Richard who calls it the argument from personal incredulity. If I can't explain how the pyramids were built or whatever, therefore the aliens did it or something like that.
Therefore God.
That's right. Therefore God. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Do you ever get people asking you whether or not you're skeptical of your skepticism? Because
Yeah,
I get that a
yeah,
lot.
Yes, of course.
And then it's
right,
immediately
yes.
followed by something like Pascal's wager.
Right, yeah. Well, of course, you can be skeptical of. I mean, scientists are skeptics. That's
Right.
what they are. I mean, that's what they do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a way, if you think about it, are you a climate skeptic, or are you skeptical of the climate skeptics, which would make you a believer? So it's not
Right.
that we're just skeptical across the board. We don't believe anything. It's just, is there evidence for it? And how good is the evidence? And what's the nature of the claim?
Right. Evidence is something that people tend to use very loosely as a term.
Yes.
Whenever I come into contact with people that want to debate me, they want to prove to me that there is a God. Most of the time is what they want to talk about. They point to like the trees and they're like, look, evidence.
Right. Okay. So, well, yeah. In that case, you have to say, okay, but that's just an observation of nature.
It's an evidence of a tree.
Right. Right. No. So of course, what they're trying to use the jargon of language, but there has to be some way to run an experiment or test the hypothesis. Which hypothesis is more likely? So if you make just a simple observation, like, did someone named Jesus exist? Okay, probably. And was he crucified? Yeah, good chance of that. Romans crucified people right and left for anything. Did he die for your sins? Okay, that's in a different category than did he exist? And these are different questions. So I put the did he die for your sins kind of question in the same category as, I like dark chocolate more than milk chocolate. Now, or I think Stairway to Heaven is the greatest rock song of all time. Now, maybe you think it's Freebird or whatever you would think.
Totally.
And so how can we settle that dispute? We can't. It's just a personal truth. It's in your head. And I think I think Jesus died, or I believe in God, or whatever, is in that category. It's in your. It's a personal truth in your head that cannot be proven, in some sense, in the same way that you would prove the tree exists, or whatever.
Living in California, I get a lot of people that they believe in other things too, beyond religion. They believe in the universe speaking to them. Have you ever had people that have said things like that to you? That that like that book, The Secret. You know,
Yes,
just
yes.
put it out into the universe,
Yes.
and then it will come back.
I've been trying that for years, and I still haven't got my mansion on the beach with my private
really?
jet. Yes,
Man, you know, it's just because you have to believe in
have
it.
to believe in it.
You have to believe in it also.
And the poor, starving children in Africa, they just don't want food bad enough.
They haven't put it out into the universe apparently, you know, because that's how it works.
Yeah.
So.
I do think I think something like that is a substitute for religion for a lot of people.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
So
definitely.
where they may not say, no, I'm not a Christian. I don't believe in God.
Yeah.
But I'm not an atheist. I believe, the cosmos or the universe or
stars.
or cosmic consciousness. Like my friend Deepak Chopra. So he and I have been going around for years. So in the last year, I've gotten to know him pretty well. So we've kind of trying to settle our worldview differences. And it really comes down to, he says, I think consciousness is what he called the ground of being. It is the ontological primitive. You can't get behind it. It's everywhere. And when I say, well, is it in the table? He goes, no, that's the wrong way to say it, Shermer. It's everywhere. That's okay. So how do you prove that? He says, well, because we're conscious. It's like, that's not a proof. And, so you kind of go back and forth about this. Okay, so if that's your starting point, if that's how you define it, then it's sort of the end of the conversation. There's no experiment we're going to run to go, okay, you're right and I'm wrong, and I'm right and you're wrong. Or, so often I think people they just have a starting point, and they go, this is what I believe. Okay, but is it really true? Well, if it's true for you, that's different than if it's true for me.
Or, reality based at all.
Right.
I have, like I said, this is like California, so the woo is everywhere. And whenever I'm at a party, people ask me like very seriously, this is a serious question. They're like, what is your sign? I have to know because I can tell you if you're compatible with the guy you're seeing right now. I can tell you where you're going to be at in 5 years, what career you should be taking, the kind of person that you are, the kind of life experiences that you're meant to have based on the time and place and year that I was born. And I'm just like, okay. And I feel like a lot of people know, like knowing me and the way that I think, they're like cringing when someone else asks me. They're like, oh God, what is she going to do? And then it's almost like this uncomfortable position that I put in, like, okay, do I say what I think and then ruin the party? Or do I just smile and go, I'm an Aries?
Right. Yeah, I'm often conflicted like that. I don't go to those kind of parties in a while, but I guess it depends on what you want to do. If you want to disrupt things, if you say, well, I'm an atheist, or I don't believe that, whatever, it could just be like, the music stops and everybody's like, what did he say? Or you just kind of go along and don't say anything. And,
right.
I guess it depends on who it is you're talking, what the context is.
I've taken both of those routes before, and the one time that I did decide to say something, and I will never do it again, it did cause a problem.
Yeah.
And people thought that I was like being mean, but I wasn't even like trying to tell them that they were wrong or debunking them in a sense. I was just like, but why do you like what makes you think that? And simply just asking why was like, how dare you question my philosophy?
Right. Sometimes I'll try to say, I used to believe, because I did. I used to be a Christian and an evangelical. I went to Pepperdine. I was serious. I went door to door, Amway with Bibles. I want to tell you about Jesus, the whole thing. So I can honestly say, I used to be a believer too. And they'll go,
Me
what? And then so it lowers the barriers a little bit. Like, okay.
Right.
And then you see the wheels turning. Like, well, what happened? Like, this couldn't happen. This couldn't happen to me, could it?
What traumatic event must have happened to you in your life to make you this way? You poor thing.
I like the ones that say, well, you never really believed, because if you did, you wouldn't have given it up. Like, what?
Yeah, you were never really a believer. I get that too. I was religious all through college. And then whenever I left college, then I started questioning things. But
What? Yeah. So you were a Christian?
I was very religious. I went to Catholic school actually from kindergarten through my senior year in high school, and then in college I went through like an evangelical stage.
Oh wow!
So yeah, I was a Bible thumper.
My wife went to Catholic school in Germany.
Nice.
Very Catholic country, yeah.
Yeah.
And she's now an atheist, so it happens.
Yeah.
What took you out of it, or what made you doubt?
Oh, I actually started going to medical school. And I just started learning a lot of different things, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me. And I was watching different political podcasts and stuff online, and found that a lot of those people weren't believers, and I didn't like that, because I would like their political viewpoints, and I was like, but they're an atheist. But then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, as much as I don't like this, and there's like that part of me that's just like, but Jesus. Like,
but Jesus, yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, oh, but they're right, and it makes sense. And then at some point, I just had to be honest with myself, and I'm like, okay, I guess I have to like start thinking about it. And then I went through a phase of saying I'm agnostic, which I still say that I am, because I feel like they're two different, you know, words. So.
How do you use the words? What do you mean when you say that?
Well, I use agnostic as a position of knowledge, and I can't say that I know one way or the other.
Right,
I feel like it's
right.
intellectually dishonest for anyone to say that they're, you know, Gnostic about whether or not there's a God.
You mean you can't say you know there is no God.
Right, you know, but in the same sense, I can't say I know there is no like leprechaun or fairy godmother, etc.
Right.
But atheist, I believe, like, you know, the theist part refers to belief, and I don't believe in God. So I'm an atheist, but I say agnostic atheist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just say skeptic often, since I have a
Skeptic
magazine
is
called that.
easier.
Skeptic is a good word. But, you know, because in our culture, hopefully this is changing, but atheist does have a lot of baggage.
I'm trying to change that, though.
Well, yes, I think we should. We should all try to change that. But, you know, you never know. You know, the word goes into somebody's head, and then it bounces around with all the affiliations they have. And those get put on you, and then it's like, okay, but wait, I don't believe this and this and this that you're affiliated with.
You don't worship Satan? What?
Right. Or you're not a communist, or you have no morals, or you know, all the other stuff. So, but, you know, one of the things I think the sort of coming out campaign that, you know, Dawkins is promoting, I think this is good because it worked for the gay community.
Yeah.
Like, if you know somebody that's in the hated group and you see, oh, well, they're pretty normal, they're like my neighbor, oh, okay, I guess maybe my preconceptions about them are not correct. Mm-hmm. And then it sort of trickles down through pop culture that, you know, they're all over the place and it's okay.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to do on my YouTube channel. I try to keep it really light and, you know, just fun, and I do like a bunch of other random things too, but it's like, oh, hey, there's this like chick and she does like all this random stuff, and she's also an atheist.
Right.
You know, so hopefully like that kind of thing kind of gets people like, oh, you mean you don't have to be a Satan worshipping like mean, evil, angry person all the time? It's like, no.
Well, you are wearing black. So
oh yeah,
you
know, I do. I do wear a lot of black, but I don't worship Satan, and I'm not like evil.
I do too. I almost always wear black. That's sort of my skeptic uniform. So I thought, I'm going to start wearing white.
Nice.
So I'm the nice skeptic, or something like that. You know, but anyway, I think we'll get there. I mean, the fastest growing religious cohort in the country is the nuns. You know, the people that have no religious affiliation. Now, a lot of them are the people you meet at the parties that want to know your sign. They don't believe in God, but they also do believe in a lot of goofy stuff. But if we can get them wean them off the one superstition and get them off the others, might be easier.
Maybe there's like a homeopathic treatment for that.
Yes, because it doesn't do anything. Yeah, something like that.
Hey, they might believe it. They're like, oh my gosh, I took like this very diluted thing, and now I'm not religious anymore.
Yeah.
Yay. You should patent that. You should.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah. Hey, Pat, we're gonna do no. So no, well, you know, so that's another one of those conflicting. You know, to what extent should we be going after religion or promoting science? You know, our thing at Skeptic is, you know, we're a science magazine, promote science and critical thinking, and let the people get there, you know, away from religion on their own. But on the other, which is a good strategy. But on the other hand, people make claims about the world that are based on their religious beliefs, and you have to stand up. You know, you know, if somebody says I think the world is 4.6 billion years old, and somebody else says I think it's 10,000 years old, you know, the truth is not you add them up and divide by 2. No, one is actually wrong, and you have to stand up and go, you know what, that's not correct.
Oh, you're so mean for saying that. You're taking away people's beliefs.
I was at a seminary last Friday night in Texas. The Southern Baptist Seminary College or whatever. Anyway, so it was me in a room full of evangelicals, and this guy I was dialoguing with about, we weren't debating, we were dialoguing. Okay. Is faith reasonable? So, you know, of course they want to think that, it is reasonable. And it's like, well, what do you mean by faith? Okay, so, I mean, if you mean that there's not enough evidence to make a conclusion and I just believe anyway, then I would say, no, it's not reasonable. And they go, well, no, we don't mean that. We mean that there's tons of evidence and reasons for these beliefs. I said, then why call it faith?
Right.
Then it should just be like science or reliable knowledge.
Facts, yeah.
And that everybody in the world can look at it and go, yep, that's true, or nope, that's not true. And it's like you go to India, there's not like some different form of physics. There's just physics. But if you go to India, there's Hinduism.
Right.
And it's like, okay, what's the difference between those? So, you know, of course, Christians think, well, those guys are, you know, crazy. They're wrong. It's culturally bound. But ours is, you know, reasoned. And it's like, okay, I don't think so.
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Everyone thinks that they have the right answer, and then they look at an atheist and they think that we're horrible. But I've heard you say it before. We just go one God further.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I didn't invent that, but it's a great line. I actually don't know who came up with that.
I hear it all over the place.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I saw you say it in a TED Talk. So
yeah. And it's true. I mean, pretty much all Christians are skeptical of other religions. They're just like us. I mean, I get a lot of praise from Christian communities about debunking psychics and all that stuff. Of course, they think the psychics are dabbling in the occult, and they may get too close to Satan. So they praise me for that. It's like, wait, no. There's no Satan. It's just a dumb idea. And I'm glad you're glad that we're debunking bad ideas, but there's no Satan behind the bad idea.
Yeah. Speaking of dumb ideas, another thing that I heard you bring up was in Clearwater, Florida, there was like the Virgin Mary that appeared on one of the buildings. I actually went to that.
You did?
Because I grew up in Florida.
Right.
I went to a Catholic middle school, and they took us there on a field trip one day.
Really?
Yeah, and it was like this huge event, and the teachers were crying, and there was a priest there, and he made us all get together and pray. And
I mean, this is like taking the class to the museum.
Right, no, but we all went to the
Yeah.
Virgin Mary Clearwater apparition or whatever it was. It was just water on a piece of glass. It does that sometimes.
You were a believer at the time.
I mean, I was like very young. I was like 8 or 9, so I just was like, okay. I mean, you know, it was weird for me because I didn't like really care. Like, I just wanted to go home. It was very boring, and that's kind of like my kid brain working. But it was very weird. Like I remember the teachers being emotional, and like they made this huge deal about it. And then I saw you mention it in TED Talk. I'm like, I went there. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
In fact, the day I was there, Dawkins was there and Randy was there, and it was on Good Friday. So, you know, that's a big thing. And it was packed, and people were there in their wheelchairs and crutches to be healed. But we walked around the side, and you could see all the windows were stained. It's just the water in Clearwater is not very clear. It's kinda, it's mineralized, so it stains the windows. You know, somebody vandalized it, though. It's gone. I think I read that somebody took a slingshot and with pellets broke it.
So they're going straight to
hell. The miracle is no mas.
Didn't you say like on the back of the building there was another one? But
they wiped it off.
That one wasn't religious. Just the
one
big
miracle per building. That's all you get. You know, the Catholic Church actually they have Hitchens used to joke about this. They have a what is it called? The devil's advocate, the advocatus diaboli. The devil's advocate, and this is the person or committee that debunks miracle claims because they know that most of them are a bunch of baloney, and they get them. You know,
just the real miracles can get through.
That's right. Only so they have to have a filtering process, and it comes down to only a handful of the miracles are real. And it's a little bit like how you become a saint. You have to have I think it's like 2 major miracles and 2 small miracles or something, or 1 major and 2 small
minimum
ones.
requirements.
That's
for
right.
sainthood.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, okay, they've almost jettisoned most of the supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
But not quite. Again, just one step further, just one more further. Just say Jesus was a great teacher, or a moral man, or just whatever, a good guy. But why go the extra step and say, well, he was super, because at this debate thing I was at in Texas dialogue, I stood the reliable knowledge argument. So I said, okay, so we know about, say, Mount Vesuvius erupted and erased Pompeii. And the Romans wrote about it. We have written documents. You can go there and see it. We know what happened. We have a lot of information. Now, what information do we have about Jesus? Next to nothing. Now, you're claiming that this guy was resurrected from the dead. Okay, so I'm making the argument from proportionality of evidence. The extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Okay. So, I claim that a volcano erupted and wiped out Pompeii. That's an ordinary claim, and we have a ton of evidence for it. We should all accept it. Now, you make an extraordinary claim that 100 billion people have died, and not one has come back, but this guy did. Now, and is the evidence commensurate with that? No. In fact, it's worse than the volcano story. Way worse. There's and the Romans wrote about everything, but somehow they missed this. Okay, his answer to this is that he wasn't a man when he was resurrected. He then became God, and therefore he could invisibly believe, and no one noticed. And it's like, okay, right there, at that moment, you've gone off the page of science, faith, reason, evidence into the I like dark chocolate more than milk chocolate. Personal truth. This is what I want to believe, and I'm making up ad hoc explanations.
Yeah, that's what people like to do. And if you question it, then you're a horrible person. Do you get that a lot? Do you get people saying that you're mean for questioning them? Because I get a lot of people that they don't understand the difference between criticizing an idea or a thought or a belief system. They think it's basically insulting a person, and they can't separate those two things.
Yes, I get that, and I'm also a little bit worried about that in the academy. Students now, protesting, deplatforming, the microaggressions, all that. It's like, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I've already made up my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just the right that does this, the religious right, but it looks like the academic left has gone down this pathway that's very scary. Protesting speakers, not letting them speak. The thing that happened at Charles Murray last week at Middlebury College. Here's a controversial guy for sure, and he's a kind of libertarian, right-leaning guy. And so they got their best professor that's going to go up against him. They're going to get on stage and they're going to have at it. And she's got all these arguments from his books, and she's going to counter him, and it's going to be this epic battle. Nope, they wouldn't even let him speak. In fact, she got grabbed by the hair and yanked back and snapped her neck, and she had to go to the hospital. And this is an uber liberal professor that gets injured. Okay, I'm worried about that.
Yeah.
That's not good, because you got to let the other side speak.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been one for censorship.
No. Just put. That's why even like the Holocaust deniers, just give us your best shot.
Yeah.
We're gonna run an issue of Skeptic on it. Give me your 10 best arguments you have, and they did.
Nice.
Okay, it's like, all right, and to me, it's not. I don't need to say, I don't want to tell people about this, because if they find out, maybe they'll start believing it. No, because if most of the time, the arguments are so bad.
Right. Yeah,
everybody can see how ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
So,
It's not helping their cause, I don't think.
No.
So you were religious for about 7 years, and people who are offended by me not believing, I often tell them, well, I was religious for a long time. I don't think that you're stupid, because that's always their go-to. Like, you must think that I'm an idiot. And I'm like, no, I think that, some of your beliefs are, kind of dumb, but that doesn't mean I think you're dumb for having them. I have been there. I have the same thing happen to me, and many people who are very intelligent are still religious. And so I try to explain this to people, and it's really hard for a lot of people to understand that criticizing their beliefs is not criticizing their intelligence. And I really like the examples that you've used about I think it's a type 1 and type 2 error.
Right.
And how, it makes sense to be a believer until you're given, obviously, more evidence.
Right.
But
Yeah, it's looking more and more like the moment your brain can conceptualize an idea, you grasp it, you believe it. They sort of go hand in hand. I understand it, and 2 + 2 is 4. Okay, I grasp it. Oh, and I believe it's true. Mm-hmm. Now to go an extra step further and say, well, I'm not sure it's true.
Yeah.
First of all, it lights up a different area of the brain. The first kind is when you do these brain scans, it's in these dopaminergic neurons, these neurons that release dopamine, which is a feel good. It's like a reinforcement, positive reinforcement. Feels good. I got it. Get a little hit. All right, but to then go, hey, but I'm not sure it's true. This is a different part of the brain, not associated with good things, but bad things like bad smells, negative emotions, and it's another cognitive load. You got to keep track of, well, what is it that the claim is, and then why? What are the arguments against it? Okay, now that the load starts piling up, it's not comfortable. It's hard to be a skeptic. In other words, the default option is just believe whatever you hear.
Right.
And then, which is why, the fake news and alternative facts, all that stuff, this is so easy to spread on the internet. I saw it. I read it. I read it on the interweb. Must be true. Okay, wait. Let's pull back and go, okay. But that most of us, are cognitive lazy. We just don't want to do that. It's extra work.
How do you approach people that feel like you're doing them some kind of injustice by being skeptical? And not even debunking, but just questioning their beliefs? Because I get a lot of hate for that. Do you get hate mail?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, one way around is kind of do an end run or come at it more indirectly. So, again, like as Carol Tavris shows in her book, Mistakes Were Made, but Not by Me. If you attack somebody directly, you're going to get that backfire effect. The wall's going to go up, cognitive dissonance kicks in. You're giving me a choice between my core beliefs that I define myself as and these little facts over here. I'm going to spin doctor the facts before I give up my core beliefs. Because that's what everybody does. We all do this. So one way is to be, respectful, listen, try to repeat their argument. Let me get this straight. You're claiming what now? That he became God at that moment? Why would you, how do you know? I mean, isn't that just a faith bit? It's more like I like dark chocolate more than milk chocolate. I use that because it's kind of a fun analogy. Or you come at it, so, I used to believe, that's a good strategy.
Yeah.
You can hang on to your beliefs. Maybe, yes, okay, evolution is true, and that was how God did it. And then sometimes I make the argument, back in Newton's time, when, sort of the introduction of gravity and the clockwork universe and all that, there were people that were very doubtful and skeptical, but, the consensus was it's true, and this is how God makes solar systems. This is how God runs the universe. This is, so we're learning more about God through the study of science. That's actually historically what happened. So when Darwin's the second edition came out, he wrote a little extra chapter in which, after he got all this feedback, and he made this same argument that I don't know why everybody's making a fuss about this, because why can't evolution be like gravity? It's like, this is how God makes it. He didn't believe this, but if you want to, this is an argument you can make to a believer. This is how God does things.
Right.
So sometimes I try that. I just don't want them to abandon the science. Just take this, accept the science. You know why? Because it's true.
Yeah.
Don't you want to believe in things that are true?
Of course. I see people doing this all the time, where they argue against a certain thing. Like, for example, the Earth is flat. And then they find out that the Earth is not flat, and they're like, well, of course the Earth isn't flat, but also, God made a round Earth. So they take, like, new science that they learn and just kind of mix it in with their religion so that they can, like, kind of keep both, so that they're not totally debunked.
One of the things I'm most looking forward to, the discovery of extraterrestrial intelligence, I hope it happens in my lifetime, is how the theists and believers will respond to that. I mean, are we to understand that Jesus went to every planet and saved them? Do they have original sin? How does this work? Just as an exercise in, critical thinking about your particular belief here on Earth. What about, Vega or whatever? Yeah. and then maybe if you get them to say it, they can see how it sounds. Like, I don't know. Or you repeat it, kind of the rules of debate. You should repeat your opponent's position clear enough that they would go, yeah, that's what I believe. So when I try this, I often find that people go, well, no, that's not what I'm arguing. Now, maybe it is, and they heard it and said, that doesn't sound so good. Or maybe they don't even know what it is they're arguing. And when you clarify it, then they go, oh, well, maybe not.
I've had a lot of conversations with people that believe, even pastors. I've done debates. And it seems like a common thread with all these people is they always ask me, and they're very concerned when they ask me, they're like, what must have happened to you? What dark, horrible thing happened in your life that made you an atheist? Like, as though something, traumatic must have happened in my life, because obviously that's the only way that you become skeptical of anything. Do people ask that about you, and how do you, because you said you were religious for a long time.
Yeah, so I get asked that all the time. And the same reason. They're looking for the thing that went wrong, so that doesn't happen to them, and then maybe we can get you back on the path.
We can fix you because you're broken right now.
These nice people at the Baptist seminary there, they're all like, well, you're so nice, we think maybe, God will let you in there.
Right.
Maybe if you come around at the last minute, I'm like, okay, well, we'll see. So sometimes I'm hesitant to give answers. Like if I say, well, the problem of evil always bothered me. And I'll outline it for them the way I conceive of it. But sometimes I worry about that because I think, if I can just counter that, then I'll bring them back.
Right.
Because it's like, no, that's not the only reason. Just the whole concept of a supernatural world that exists out there. I mean, maybe there is. I don't know, but it doesn't look like it to me. So I'm leading my life as if it doesn't. And then the other thing I think a lot of us are doing now, to get away from the old atheists of the Madeline Murray O'Hare, that sort of angry, foaming at the mouth, just sort of uncomfortable and unpleasant to be around.
Like my old YouTube videos.
Were you like that?
I had some angst.
Oh, okay. Day, all right. Well.
Sorry.
But so many of us, I think now, are it's like, this person seems nice and happy and moral and good, and they don't believe, okay. So, and actually, there's a lot of us, really, because you think about it. I mean, even if it's the, less than 10%,
right?
There's 240 million adult Americans, that's up to just around to 24 million people. That's a lot of people, So, and that's a voting block.
Yeah. So, since you were religious for so long, what did actually make you think about becoming skeptical of.
Several things. So when I was at Pepperdine, I was in a bubble, the echo chamber as they call it now.
Yeah.
And so in that world, everything does kind of cohere and make sense. There's a certain internal logic to the arguments that they make, especially when you don't hear a lot of the outside criticism. They'll give some of it to you. This is what these guys over here say, and here's our response. But you don't get it from the other person, right? And then I went to Cal State Fullerton for graduate school, and there it's a secular university and not anti-religious. That wasn't a thing back in the 70s. It was just no one cared about it. It was not really talked about. We were just working, just running experiments and stuff. So there, as I began to have doubts, it was like no big deal. It's like, yeah, whatever, dude, of course, you know. And so there was no social pressure against me, like, let's take him in to see the pastor and rescue him before he goes too far down this road. No, just professors encouraged me to explore and think. So that, and then again, the problem of evil, just sort of thinking about that, why bad things happen. I don't mean criminals with free will do bad things because the Christian would go, well, he's an original sinner and he just has lack of control over his impulses, and we can fix him. No, I don't mean that. I mean like childhood leukemia. Starving children in Syria. Why punish them? This is the best God can do. I mean, isn't this what sports are for? I mean, aren't there ways to kind of toughen up and learn character and stuff without having to have violence? This is what God allowed. To me, or the childhood leukemia, this little infant dies and the parents are just crushed and brokenhearted, and the kid doesn't have a life, he's gone. What's the moral lesson? What can that possibly teach anybody?
People have a lot of nerve to say that there is some kind of greater good or lesson in that, and then get offended at the same time whenever you question.
Right.
It's like, I'm the bad one in this situation.
Right. Yeah, I think probably the psychology behind it is that everything happens for a reason. Is I'm not comfortable with ambiguity, and the world's a complex, messy place. Bad things happen, shit happens, as the bumper sticker says. Just the way it goes. Well, most people don't like that. Yeah. It's like we want there to be order, and religion puts order on chaos. And in a way, science does that. Civil society does that. Humanism does that. We can do better than a 4,000-year-old doctrine.
Yeah, I mean, another thing people use it for, they say that you need it to have morality, and what would be your purpose in helping another person or caring about other people even without religion? And I'm just like, well, honestly, I feel like after I became an atheist, I cared more because I recognized and I realized that this is their only chance at life.
Right.
They don't get some kind of greater reward, the meek shall inherit the earth kind of thing. Like that's not real. Like I'm not waiting for that. I'm not waiting to be happy. I'm not waiting to help people. I'm not sending prayers, and thinking that actually does anything.
Right.
If I want to make a difference and actually do something good, like I do it now. Because it's it's the only chance I have.
That's the point Hitch made in his missionary position critique of Mother Teresa. It's like, these poor people, they need food and water and vitamins and shelter. They don't need a promise of that it's going to be great in the next life. Hang in there.
Right.
Yeah, it's not really helping people. And I mean, it's nice, I guess, if I'm thinking, it's like thinking nice thoughts about you. Okay, but what I really need is food.
Best wishes, okay, but like help. Yeah, so that, I mean, a lot of people who question whether or not, losing religion has made me, like, better or worse, I bring that up, because I feel like it actually has made me better.
In what way?
Well, like I said, just realizing that, people, if you want to help them, you need to do it, like, in real life, instead of sending prayers or best wishes or thinking well thoughts. And
of course, Christians do real things, too, but the question is, what's the motivation? Right. And isn't it in its own, just for their own sake, just to help people, just because it's a good thing? Why isn't that good enough?
Yeah, there's always the promise of reward in the afterlife, and that is a strong motivator.
That seems like a really trivial reason to help. I mean, that seems like a selfish reason. So when you confront Christians with that, they go, no, that's not why I do it. I don't do it because I'm waiting for the big reward in heaven. But I mean, that kind of is behind it. Ultimately, but they say, well, because God teaches us to be good and loving. It's like, why can't you just do it because it's a good thing to do in its own sake, without somebody having to tell you In any case, didn't your parents tell you this? Didn't your culture teach you this? I mean,
Yeah.
anyway, it goes back because then they go, well, America's a Christian nation. Yeah, well, but Europe's not anymore, and they seem to be doing pretty well.
Yeah, they have their shit together more than we do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, my wife's from Germany, and let me tell you, since I've been going there a lot, it's like, you know what these people are doing? All the European countries, they're doing just fine without religion. In fact, they're doing better without religion.
Right. Yeah,
and
crime rates have gone down.
That's what the data shows. So in fact, America's the most religious of the Western democracies.
So sad.
And we have the highest crime rates, highest STD rates, highest abortion rates, highest drug rates, highest suicide rates, highest homicide rates.
Wait a minute, but I thought America was number one. I guess that's what they're talking about.
We're number one in all the categories except all the ones I just mentioned. So, now, of course, those things they're not caused by religion, but if religion is so great, if it's such a great prophylactic against sin and bad behavior, how come it's not working here? Well, it's only the non-Christians that
God
do those
works
things.
in mysterious ways. Come on.
I know,
There's a lesson to be learned in all of it,
Yeah, the mysterious ways business. I mean, that's just the argument from ignorance, right? Like, I can't explain it, so I'm just going to say these magical incantation over it, and that'll explain it.
It totally works. So since your magazine is Skeptic Magazine, and that's like your big claim to fame is being a skeptic, do people ever come up with conspiracy theories about you? Like, I know I get this all the time, where people are like, oh, she used to be a Christian, she probably still is, and she's just doing this for some reason that I don't understand why they think, but like one day she's going to come out and admit that she was religious all along.
Secretly working for this other organization, yes.
Right. Do you ever get...
Sometimes I get that, yes. Well, the 9/11 truthers were after us for quite a while because we had an issue on 9/11 debunking all their claims. And we did what we always do, here's the top 15 arguments that they make, and here's why they're not true. It's like, okay, there's something else going on. This is a false flag operation, and the government is funding Skeptic Magazine. It's like, well, I wish they would. You can send the checks here to our P.O. box. No, nothing's come yet. And that, and the Holocaust deniers thought, well, maybe Shermer's Jewish. I'm not Jewish. Maybe he's secretly funded by a Jewish organization. No, sorry. But again, if anyone wants to make a donation.
Right. Oh, you're part of the Illuminati. I get that one.
No, I haven't had a... Well, yeah, I'd like to be number 13 of the Illuminati. Yes.
I founded it. What are you talking about?
That's right. Okay, it's the new Illuminati. It's like the millennial Illuminati. That's what we need.
Well, one day we can make all the people with the tinfoil hats happy. You could come out with your final book. It can be
the tell-all.
I was secretly Christian all along. Right. LOL at atheists. Joke's on you, atheists. We can write that one together because it'll be applicable to both of us.
Well, yes. But then I'll go to hell. So, but all the cool people will be there. Hitch will be there, and Sagan and Gould and Asimov, and I'm kind of looking forward to.
It'll be a party.
Yeah, my next book is called Heavens on Earth. So. The afterlife, and it's just fraught with so many problems that I didn't even thought about when I was a believer. But as Hitch says, it'd be like being in celestial North Korea, where an omniscient being knows all your thoughts. I have thoughts I don't want people to, okay. Or as my college professor used to ask, well, are there golf courses and tennis courts there? Because I really like sports. I mean, I'm going to be bored just sitting around, just being loving with the being, but for eternity. I mean, what do you do, right? And then if you're resurrected as a physical being like this, well, why wouldn't you age and die in heaven? Because you have the same body. Okay, well, he's going to resurrect you in some other way. Well, then that's not you. It's something other than you. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of people, I have this conversation and they're like, oh, well, it's too much for our earthly brains to comprehend. You just need to wait for the awesomeness that is heaven.
Okay, well, awesomeness awaits me. Okay, good. Well, I'll see you there, maybe. But in the meantime, I'm not counting on it.
I'll see you in a hell. That's where we're both going. Yeah. So when is this book coming out?
Oh, the next book comes out January 2018. I just turned it in.
Awesome.
I deal with the afterlife, but more importantly, scientific attempts to achieve immortality. Okay. Cryonics, transhumanists, the singularity. We're going to upload our minds into computers.
That's very interesting.
And I'm skeptical of all this. Cause first of all, they're not even remotely close to being able to do anything like this.
Right.
But even if we copied your connectome, as it's called, the equivalent of your genome, like the map of every single synaptic connection in your brain, so we have all your memories, and we put them in future one of these.
Oh.
That has big enough storage. It's just a copy of you there, It's not you. I can't conceive of
Right.
how you would wake up in the computer and go, here I am, like Johnny Depp in Transcendence. I'm in the
Yeah.
computer now. I'm in it. I don't think that would do it. And I think God has the same problem. Because if when you're resurrected, you're dead, your brain, it's all gone. Okay,
Yeah.
so how is it that God lifts you up, into the clouds or wherever heaven is? And what's there? If it's a copy of you, then it's not you. If it
Right.
is you, actually you, then you're just a physical. It's just you
You're
here
like a
with the
robot.
same, with the same
It's-
broken body, and it's going to decay, and so you're going to get old. Okay, so
Very weird.
so the religious people have the same problem. So anyway, I think a lot of this fascination with the singularity, and Ray Kurzweil is almost like a cult-like leader of this. I call it the afterlife for atheists. It's like, I don't believe in any of that stuff, but we are going to live forever because the genius of the Google guys and all these life extension people, and we're going to get to live. People say, don't you want to live 500 years, Shermer? It's like, look, just get me to 90 without Alzheimer's and 100 without cancer, and then we'll talk.
Right. Yeah, there's so many different AI movies and stuff out where people somehow go into a computer, where there's a storyline where if somebody dies, based off of the tweets that you've made and posts that you've made online, it can kind of like guess as to what you would say next in a conversation.
Oh, right.
And I've seen
right.
this like recurring theme in a bunch of different movies and short films. And it kind of makes you ask, like, at what point are you and not just like a robot? And
Right.
why would you even want to test that out?
Right.
And what makes you think it would actually be you? I don't know.
Right.
It's kind of weird to think about living that long anyway, but I don't know that I would want to.
Again, just give me an extra 10 years, 20 years, and then we'll talk. And if you give me 10 more after that, I'll take it. But this promise of you, because this Aubrey de Grey guy is one of these radical life extensions. The person that will live 1,000 years is alive today. Like, okay, really? I mean, how different is this from religion?
Haven't people already started trying to do that, like freezing their heads and things like that?
Well, the cryonics people, right?
Yeah.
So you're frozen. And they have these different techniques that supposedly preserve the organs and so on. But because look, they do this with sperm and eggs and embryos. They freeze them and they can last for a long time. Okay, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a difference between a tiny little thing that big
Yeah.
and a thing this big.
Right.
And the problem is infusing an organ that size and with a cryoprotectant agent like an antifreeze. Because the moment you freeze it, then the water expands inside the cells and shatters the cells. Your memories are gone. Okay, so they have a counter to that. So we infuse your brain with this cryoprotective agent. The problem is the brain's too big, and it doesn't get in there into every last cell like it would an embryo. So no one frozen today is ever coming back. I'm quite certain of that. But they have a faith-based. It's like, yes, but technology. This is like the yes but Jesus. They have the yes but technology will do it.
Yes but science. Yes but technology.
Right. Yes but Moore's law. Moore's law will get us there. It's like,
Of course.
okay, maybe, but don't give up your day job and be sure and have some fun tomorrow, because you may not live 1,000 years.
You might not.
Enjoy it now, just in case, because I'm not counting on it.
You only have one life.
That's right. That's right. YOLO,
That's one
yes.
beautiful thing about being an atheist. You don't have to worry about anything else. You just live.
I think it's liberating, and it's not libertine like
And not in
liberating.
the sense, though, that people think, like, oh, you're an atheist, and therefore now you can just live recklessly, and you don't care about anything, and you can just go, pillage.
Right.
like,
Sex, drugs, and rock and
Yeah.
roll. Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. It's really liberating, actually. And I think the more we say it, and people see that you live it, it's like you're a happy person, you're fulfilled, so on, just like everybody else. Okay.
Yeah.
Then it becomes more acceptable.
And we're not evil. We're not Satan worshipping, scary, mean, angry people.
Right. Even though we wear black sometimes.
Sometimes there's nothing wrong with that.
I know, I like black. But again, I mean, Europe made this transition after the Second World War till today, where their rates of belief in God and religion just plummeted, and rates of happiness are much higher than in America. Their life satisfaction, all those surveys and polls they do every year, they always come out higher than America. So it's like, okay, well, so apparently it's not necessary to have religion.
I guess not. Is there anything?
There's our take-home message for today.
Is there
Be happy.
Be happy. Is there anything you want to promote? I can leave a link to any of your sites.
Skeptic.com is our main.
Skeptic.com.
Yeah, that's our main portal.
Don't be skeptical of skeptic.com.
That's right. Yeah, there we go. See, don't be skeptical.
We are not closeted Christians. Although earlier you did admit that you believe that you have magical powers.
That's right. I'm directing you to go to skeptic.com.
We're putting it out into the universe right now.
That's right. The secret is listening.
Everyone will go to skeptic.com. All right. Well, thanks for
Very
being
good.
on my YouTube channel.
You're welcome. I'm thrilled. This is fun.
Make sure to check him out online, and I guess I'll see you guys later. Bye. Blow a kiss to the camera.
Yes, okay.
Mwah.
Here we go.